People don't always know what they sense about an INFJ, but they feel it instantly. A quiet awareness, a depth behind the eyes, a presence that seems to read the room without effort. Before a word is spoken, people adjust themselves. Their tone changes, their guard rises or falls. Something about the INFJ aura makes people instinctively reveal or protect the parts of themselves they don't want seen. And the strange part is this. The INFJ isn't doing anything. Their stillness alone rearranges the emotional landscape around them. Spend enough time in social spaces and you'll notice it. People either soften around INFJs or become tense, as if suddenly being observed by someone who can't be deceived. It's not judgment. INFJs don't go around analyzing people for sport, it's perception. It's the natural ability to absorb emotional patterns, inconsistencies, microexpressions, and unspoken tension without trying. People sense this subconscious scanning, even if they don't understand it. And the moment they feel seen, their behavior changes. They become more honest or more defensive, depending on who they are beneath the mask. This effect grows stronger the more an INFJ heals. Their presence becomes calmer, more grounded, less reactive. And that calmness challenges people who rely on noise or performance to feel relevant. INFJs don't compete for space, so others either feel safe in their presence or completely exposed. It's why fake people keep their distance, why insecure people become unsettled, and why genuine souls are drawn in effortlessly. People intuitively sense that INFJs can perceive their emotional truth, the truth they don't show anyone else. And that changes every dynamic before it even begins. If you've ever wondered why people treat you differently without knowing you well, this is the reason. Your aura doesn't ask for honesty, it creates honesty. Your silence doesn't seek truth, it reveals it. And whether people lean closer or pull away has nothing to do with your worth. It has everything to do with what they feel when they're in the presence of someone who truly sees. Before you go, answer this in the comments. Do people open up to you instantly or do they become guarded? And if this resonates with you, subscribe to Brainy One. There's more coming about the depth, power, and evolution of the INFJ mind. People sense that INFJs can read emotional truth even when nothing is said. People feel this long before they understand it. There is something in the INFJ's gaze, quiet, steady, unhurried, that makes a person realize their words are optional. An INFJ doesn't need explanations. They register what lies beneath the surface, a small hesitation, a shift in breathing, the flicker of doubt in someone's eyes. These micro signals land with precision, and people feel strangely transparent in their presence. It's not that the INFJ is trying to uncover anything. It's the opposite. Their natural stillness becomes a space where the emotional truth of a moment rises without effort. People sense this immediately, and it changes the dynamic before a single sentence is exchanged. Most conversations continue on two tracks, what is said and what is meant. With most people, those tracks never meet, but with INFJs, they merge. They can hear sincerity that isn't spoken and notice tension that isn't acknowledged. Someone says, "I'm fine," and the INFJ hears fatigue wrapped around the syllables. Someone smiles, and the INFJ sees the shadow behind it. People feel this not because the INFJ calls it out, but because the INFJ doesn't perform the social blindness others rely on. Their attention is soft but unyielding. They watch, not to judge, but to understand. And this alone reveals the emotional truth people thought they hid well enough. What unsettles people is not exposure, but accuracy. The INFJ does not need dramatic confession to know when something is off. They feel emotional dissonance like a shift in temperature. Someone's tone warms, but their eyes stay cold. Someone's words sound confident, but their posture folds inward. This silent mismatch is louder to an INFJ than the conversation itself. People sense that the INFJ has already decoded it, and they begin reacting differently, speaking more cautiously, revealing more than intended, or avoiding the INFJ altogether if their intentions are unclear. It is not fear of being judged, it is the discomfort of being deeply seen. What makes this trait so powerful is its neutrality. INFJs rarely expose what they perceive, but their understanding subtly transforms every interaction. People find themselves softening, confessing, justifying, or withdrawing, all because they know the INFJ is listening to more than words. And long after the conversation ends, they remember that feeling of being understood without trying and seen without performing. People adjust their behavior because INFJs notice subtle shifts instantly. People feel this before they can explain it. An INFJ enters a room quietly, but their awareness spreads fast, taking in tone, posture, pacing, the unspoken tension between two people, the forced cheerfulness in someone's greeting. They don't scan the room reveals itself to them. And once someone realizes the INFJ has already registered the smallest deviation, the too quick smile, the sudden drop in eye contact, the hesitation after a lie, they instinctively recalibrate. Their voice softens, their gestures become more controlled, their words grow more careful, not out of fear, but because they sense they're interacting with someone who sees the edits in the performance, not just the script. What unsettles people most is the speed of it. A shift in energy that everyone else misses lands in the INFJ's mind with complete clarity. Someone sits a little farther away than usual. Someone's laugh is half a shade flatter. Someone who normally dominates conversation suddenly stops talking when a certain topic is mentioned. These details are quiet, almost invisible, unless you're an INFJ, and people feel it happening. They feel the way the INFJ's attention locks gently onto the smallest change, not with suspicion, but with a depth of perception that makes them realize how transparent they truly are. The adjustment happens subconsciously. People straighten up, refine their tone, or avoid exaggeration because they sense the INFJ catches incongruence the moment it appears. Even confident people become deliberate around them, as if the INFJ's presence demands emotional precision. A person who exaggerates too often will reduce their embellishments. Someone who hides discomfort will choose their words more slowly. Someone who masks frustration will suddenly try to soften their edges. It is not that the INFJ calls out the truth, they rarely do. It is the quiet certainty in their gaze that communicates everything they notice. The sensitivity creates an interaction where only authenticity feels safe. People feel encouraged to be real because pretense becomes too exhausting in the INFJ's perceptive silence. They sense that the INFJ isn't judging them, but they are seeing them fully, quickly, and without effort. And so the behavior shifts, aligning more truthfully, more consciously, more respectfully. Even long after the conversation, people remember how effortlessly the INFJ picked up the smallest emotional tremor and how it changed the way they spoke, acted, and revealed themselves. People feel exposed because INFJs see inconsistencies between words and energy. Someone can say all the right things, recite the perfect explanation, offer the expected smile, but an INFJ is already listening to something deeper. They hear the tone beneath the tone, the emotional temperature beneath the sentence, the small hesitation that contradicts the confidence in the words, and people feel it. They feel the moment the INFJ notices that something doesn't allowed, even if nothing is said aloud. That subtle discerning awareness creates an almost electric tension, the sense of being seen without being examined, understood without ever confessing anything. People suddenly become aware of the gap between what they are presenting and what they truly feel, and that awareness is disarming. It is not conscious detective work. INFJs do not sit there analyzing. The discord simply lands in their intuition like a soft alarm. A laugh that doesn't match the eyes, a compliment wrapped in resentment, excitement spoken in a flat tone, or a calm expression masking agitation. The mismatch is obvious to them, and the person in front of them feels that exposure instantly. They start adjusting their posture, slowing their speech, or over-explaining as if trying to fill the space that the INFJ's silence has illuminated. They sense they are not hiding as effectively as they thought because the INFJ's perception operates on a frequency most people cannot control. The impact is subtle but powerful. Someone who lies casually around others suddenly feels clumsy, almost transparent when facing an INFJ. Someone who hides disappointment behind jokes senses that the INFJ already caught the drop in their energy. Even those who present confidence like a polished shield begin to feel the weight of maintaining it. The INFJ isn't accusing them or interrogating them. Their presence alone exposes the crack. People become aware of their own inconsistencies because the INFJ's intuition makes them impossible to ignore. This is why conversations with an INFJ often shift into honesty even when that wasn't the intention. Pretending becomes exhausting. Deflection becomes pointless. Masks feel heavier. People don't always know why, but they know they can't keep up the performance. The INFJ sees what the words try to hide, feels what the tone betrays, and understands what the energy confesses. And that level of perception makes people reveal more of themselves, not because the INFJ pushes them, but because maintaining the inconsistency becomes impossible in the presence of someone who effortlessly reads the truth beneath it. People let their guard down because INFJs create a safe, non-judgmental presence. There is something about an INFJ's energy that dissolves tension before a single word is spoken. It is the softness in their gaze, the patience in their listening, the absence of ego in their attention. People sense it immediately. This is someone who will not ridicule them, weaponize their vulnerability, or twist their words later. The world is filled with sharp edges, judgment, and noise, but an INFJ offers the exact opposite: quiet acceptance, and this rare emotional refuge makes people open up in ways they never expected. They find themselves sharing memories they have never spoken aloud, revealing fears they usually bury, or expressing truths they've long kept hidden. The INFJ doesn't coax it out, it simply happens because the emotional environment feels safe. This safety comes from the INFJ's refusal to judge. They don't flinch when someone admits their flaws or mistakes. They don't rush to correct, criticize, or advise. Instead, they sit with the person's truth as if it deserves space. People feel that unconditional acceptance, and their guard slips without effort. They feel seen without being exposed, understood without being evaluated. Confessions are met with calm, not tension. Vulnerability is met with empathy, not interrogation. This lack of pressure allows people to relax the emotional armor they carry everywhere else. And once that armor drops, honesty becomes the only natural language left between them. Even those who never open up to anyone, the emotionally guarded, the hyper-independent, the stoic, feel something shift around an INFJ. Their carefully maintained composure softens, their tone becomes more authentic, their body language relaxes, they stop performing. It feels as though the INFJ has silently granted them permission to be real. And for many people, that experience is shocking. They are used to protecting themselves, hiding discomfort behind sarcasm, burying pain beneath humor, or masking insecurity with bravado. But the INFJ's presence makes all of that feel unnecessary. This emotional safety is powerful because it is rare. People come back to it, crave it, remember it, long after the conversation ends. They may not understand why they opened up so deeply, but they remember how it felt. To be heard without judgment, valued without conditions, and understood without explanation. In a world that often punishes vulnerability, an INFJ becomes a quiet sanctuary, and once someone experiences that level of emotional safety, their guard falls in ways it never does with anyone else. People become intimidated when INFJs remain calm in situations where others react. There is a moment, subtle but unmistakable, when the entire room shifts its energy toward the INFJ. Tension rises, voices grow, sharp, emotions escalate, yet the INFJ sits in stillness, untouched by the chaos. This calm is not passive, nor is it detached indifference. It is controlled awareness, a depth of emotional discipline that most people never learn to master. And because emotional volatility is the default in stressful situations, anyone who refuses to be swept up in it stands out immediately. People feel that contrast. They sense a power that does not need to be displayed, defended, or justified, and that quiet control unsettles them more than anger ever could. The intimidation comes from the fact that emotional calm is rare. Most people react without thinking, driven by impulse, ego, or fear. But the INFJ watches, noticing micro reactions, listening beneath the surface, evaluating the emotional landscape before taking a single step. Their restraint exposes the lack of restraint in others. Someone snaps, another person raises their voice, someone else becomes defensive. But the INFJ does not move. Their presence becomes a mirror that reflects everyone else's loss of control. And the more collected they remain, the more others begin to feel the instability of their own reactions. It is not the INFJ's intention to intimidate, but their composed silence does what no confrontation could. Beneath this calm lies a deeper truth. INFJs don't react because they already see the full emotional picture. While others fixate on the spark, the INFJ understands the fire. They perceive the root cause, the unspoken tensions, the emotional subtext driving the moment. Their calm is rooted in clarity, the kind of clarity that makes sudden reactions unnecessary. And when people sense that someone understands a situation more deeply than they do, insecurity rises. They can't predict what the INFJ is thinking. They can't influence their behavior. They can't manipulate the energy of the room the same way. Power shifts quietly toward the one who reacts the least. Over time, this unshakable calm becomes a trait people both admire and fear. They admire it because it feels strong, grounded, and wise, but they fear it because it reveals their own emotional instability. The INFJ's calm is not the absence of emotion, it is the mastery of it. And mastery always intimidates those who haven't learned it. People reveal more than they intend because INFJs listen deeply and silently. There is something disarming about the way an INFJ listens, not with impatience, not waiting for their turn to speak, but with a steady, undivided presence that makes people feel seen in a way they aren't used to. Most conversations are battles for attention or rehearsed performances meant to impress, defend, or distract. But when someone speaks to an INFJ, all of that collapses. The INFJ's stillness creates a space where people unconsciously loosen their grip on their emotional guard. They start revealing details they never planned to share, their voice softens, their posture changes, and before they realize it, they've opened the door to their inner world without being asked. It's not manipulation, it's the natural response to someone who genuinely listens. The silence of an INFJ is not empty. It has weight, it has intention, it tells the speaker, without a single word, I'm here, continue. And people do. They continue long past the point where they meant to stop. They speak through their wounds, their fears, their hidden resentments, their dreams they've never voiced aloud. The INFJ absorbs not just the words, but the emotional vibration beneath them. They notice the sudden tremor in the voice when a sensitive topic surfaces, the way someone's eyes drift when avoiding the truth, the shift in breath when their emotions conflict with what they're saying. This level of listening is rare, and because it is rare, people seek it without realizing why. But this deep listening also makes people vulnerable. In the INFJ silence, their internal contradictions become louder. It becomes harder to maintain masks, harder to hide insecurities, harder to project the version of themselves they use with everyone else. The INFJ doesn't prod, doesn't challenge, doesn't interrupt, and that is precisely why people reveal more. When there is no pressure, no judgment, no interruption, the truth flows out naturally. It feels safe, it feels relieving, and yet afterward, many people feel exposed without knowing how it happened. The irony is that the INFJ never intends to extract anything. They simply create a space where the truth rises to the surface on its own. This is what unsettles people later. They realize the INFJ heard everything. Not just what was said, but what was felt. And once someone has been that transparent in front of another person, they can never treat the INFJ the same way again. People feel valuated not because INFJs judge, but because they observe everything. Most people move through the world assuming others only catch what is obvious. The words spoken out loud, the gestures intentionally made, the emotions polished enough to display. But an INFJ's perception doesn't stop at the surface. Their mind works like a quiet, intuitive scanner, picking up the flicker of uncertainty behind a smile, the hesitation between sentences, the subtle shift in tone when someone touches a sensitive topic. They aren't judging, they're simply noticing. And it's this noticing, this unspoken awareness that makes people feel as if every part of them is being measured, even when the INFJ hasn't said a single critical word. The INFJ watches the world the way some people read books, slowly, attentively, turning every page with care. In a group conversation, while others talk over each other, the INFJ sees the small story unfolding underneath: who feels insecure, who seeks validation, who is hiding tension behind humor. They observe relational dynamics, emotional undercurrents, and inconsistencies nobody else registered. Because of this, people often sense something unsettling. The INFJ isn't just hearing them, they're understanding them, not in a superficial way, but in a way that feels uncomfortably accurate. This creates a psychological pressure many can't explain. When someone stands in front of an INFJ, they often feel the need to be more careful with their words, more thoughtful with their behavior, more truthful with themselves. It's not fear of judgment, it's fear of being seen too clearly. The INFJ's eyes seem to look past the performance and into the intention behind it. Even people who pride themselves on confidence or charm feel a flicker of self-doubt under that quiet gaze. It feels like being studied not by a critic, but by someone who already understands the ending of a story you haven't finished telling. And yet, the INFJ's observation is never malicious. They're not cataloging flaws or building a case. They're simply taking in the emotional landscape because it's how their mind naturally works. But to those who are used to controlling narratives, to hiding insecurities, or to managing how they are perceived, the INFJ's effortless perceptiveness feels like exposure. It feels like standing in the light after years of dimming the shadows. People sense it instantly, even if they can't articulate it. The INFJ sees everything they try to hide, and that truth alone changes the entire dynamic. People sense authenticity in INFJs, making fake personalities uncomfortable. Authenticity is rare enough that most people don't know how to respond to it when it appears in its purest form. INFJs carry a quiet, unwavering sincerity that cannot be faked, performed, or exaggerated. It is simply who they are, and people feel it the moment they enter their presence. Their words match their energy, their intentions align with their actions, and their emotions flow from a place of truth rather than performance. This level of congruence acts like emotional sunlight, warm and grounding for those who live honestly, but blindingly uncomfortable for those who survive on facade and illusion. Fake personalities sense immediately that they cannot manipulate, charm, or mislead an INFJ. The authenticity is too strong, and it destabilizes everything they rely on. When an INFJ speaks, even softly, there is no hidden agenda behind the words. Their tone carries clarity, their eyes show sincerity, their energy reveals whether something feels right to them. This transparency makes inauthentic people feel exposed because their masks suddenly feel heavier, more obvious, and harder to maintain. The INFJ isn't trying to expose them, but authenticity has a way of revealing every place where pretense cracks. Someone who depends on validation becomes aware of their own insecurity. Someone who performs confidence becomes conscious of the gap between their act and their truth. Someone who manipulates through charm realizes it doesn't land. The INFJ's presence quietly interrupts every tool of the artificial self. Fake personalities often sense this shift before the INFJ says anything at all. They feel a pressure to adjust themselves, to choose their words more carefully, to monitor their tone. They may even become defensive or overly talkative, trying to fill the space the INFJ leaves open. Because silence in the presence of authenticity is uncomfortable for those who fear their own reflection, the INFJ's honesty becomes a mirror, not just of who the other person is, but of who they pretend to be. And that reflection is something many cannot bear to look at for long. To genuine people, the INFJ feels grounding. To fake people, they feel threatening, not because the INFJ is intimidating, but because they make authenticity the default, and anything less becomes impossible to hide. In their presence, all masks slip, all performances lose power, and all facades feel painfully transparent. Authenticity becomes a force, and the INFJ carries it effortlessly. When you look closely, you'll notice something quietly powerful. INFJs don't expose people by speaking, they expose them simply by being. Their presence reveals what is real and what is performative, and that's why they stay unforgettable long after the moment passes. If you've ever felt this shift in someone or experienced it yourself, you already know how rare and transformative it is. Before you go, answer this in the comments so I know you watched until the very end. Have you ever made someone uncomfortable just by staying silent? And if you want more insight into the psychology behind INFJs and other rare personalities, subscribe to Brainy 1. New deep dive episodes are coming.